Hello, welcome to our talk with the title Mental Silence, a Unique State to Perceive and Interact in Our World. My name is Sergio Elias Hernandez and I am professor at the University of La Laguna, Tenerife, Spain. I have been doing research about this topic for the last 12 years. So the question that arises is, how do we perceive and interact with the world around us? And the answer is quite simple: through our nervous system. Through the nervous system we perceive the sound, the vision, the touching, and also we perceive ourselves inside us. For example, if we are hearing this talk, this in our brain, we have the auditory cortex, this part of the brain that gets activated when we are hearing. We have very unique, complex instruments like the magnetoresonance scanner that allow us to measure, to monitor the behavior of our brain. Our human brain is the most complex system in our world. We have to keep in mind that we have in our brain around 100 billion neurons. Each neurons can communicate with hundreds or even thousands of other neurons. So the complexity is quite huge. The most complex system in our world. An important topic in neuroscience, the science that studies the behavior of our nervous system, is neuroplasticity. Today we know that our brain changes from one moment to another because it's doing new connections between the different neurons that are the main cells of this nervous system. On this short talk I will introduce you to some important research. One of them was published in this journal Science in the year 2010. And it was made with more than 5,000 volunteers from 83 different countries. The title of this paper is "A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind." What they did was, through the telephone, the mobile telephones of the volunteers, they were sending messages and asking them, "How are you? What are you doing? Where is your attention?" And what they saw is that those having their attention in the here and now, in the present moment, were those who were happier, as it is in this figure. In conclusion, let me read: a human mind is a wandering mind, and a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. The ability to think about what is not happening is a cognitive achievement that comes at an emotional cost. So we have this capacity to think about the future, to think about the past, but we are all the time thinking and thinking and thinking, and when we are thinking about the future or about the past, we are losing the present moment, and life is always in the present moment. It only exists the present moment. When we have the capacity to be in the here and now, we are more efficient, we are more happy, we are happier, and it's very good for our human health and also for the health of our brain. On this research done at the Sydney University in Australia, they compare the mental health of the Australian population, depicted in this horizontal yellow line, with the mental health of the practitioners of a type of meditation called SAHAJAYOGA, in which they easily reach this state of mental silence. What they saw, that is depicted on this figure, is that those reaching this mental silence several times a day had a very good mental health. Those reaching one or twice a day, this mental silence has a very good blue line. In orange, when they have one or twice a week, but there was a small number of practitioners, around 4%, that reached this mental silence once or twice per month, or here in gray, that almost didn't reach this mental silence, that had the mental health was worse than the average of the Australian population. So the conclusion from this study is clear. The more times you reach this mental silence, the better for your mental health. Let me introduce you our research at my university. Just as a curiosity, we are here in the Canary Islands, and this talk is for people speaking Chinese, so probably you are around here. This is the instrument that we are using, the magnetoresonance scanner. We have done during these 12 years 3 types of research relating the brain, mental silence, and SAHAJAYOGA meditation. On the first type of research, we are measuring neuronal activity. On the second type of research, we are measuring the anatomical difference between meditators and non-meditators. And on the third type of research, we are measuring functional connectivity, that is, how different parts of the brain cooperate to enhance complex functions. Let's proceed with the first type of meditation, neuronal activity in mental silence. On this research, we have 19 volunteers with more than 3 years practicing daily SAHAJAYOGA meditation and trying to reach this state of mental silence. On this research, we asked volunteers to meditate inside the scanner to do 3 consecutive meditations, very short, 2 minutes each meditation. And this is what we saw. On the first meditation, there was a big activity on the frontal, behind our forehead, and temporal, lateral areas. And we interpret this like there is an effort just to stop thinking processes. Then this activity got reduced on the second meditation and much reduced on the third meditation. On the third meditation, there was an activity on a specific area that is called the insula. And the insula is known because it is in charge of the interoception. Interoception is the capacity to perceive yourself inside. And this is very important because if you perceive properly yourself inside, anytime you move away from your balance, from your equilibrium, from your harmony, you perceive it, you are conscious about this, and then you come back to your equilibrium. We published this result on this journal, the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine. At the conclusion, we said that the right insula, the activation that we saw on the third meditation, probably reflects an effortless process of attentional contemplation associated with this state of mental silence. And this also brings us to the concept of the integration of body and mind. It's very good for our health when all our being, physical, mental, and spiritual, is connected, is united, is integrated. When one part of our being goes in one direction, our mind wants this, our heart wants another thing, our body wants another thing, there is a disintegration, and this disintegration makes us to suffer, and then it's very bad for our health. Let's move to the second topic of research, that is the anatomical gray matter volume differences. Here we compare the anatomy, the brain anatomy difference between meditators and non-meditators. In order to understand this research, I should explain that our human brain, and all brains, have these 3 different types of tissues. The gray matter, that is gray color in the periphery, what is called the cortex. The white matter that is inside, doing connection between different parts of the brain. And the cerebrospinal fluid that is in the holes of the brain. The gray matter is quite important because it's the main cell, the neurons, and the connection, the synapses between the neurons. There are many research during the last 2 decades with this measuring the gray matter in different groups. For example, on this study, they measure the difference in gray matter with students learning to juggle, just is to keep the balls in the air. Before, they started practicing. They went inside the magnetoresonance scanner. After a few weeks practicing every day, they were there, and these yellow areas, depicted in yellow, that are related with the perception of movement through vision, got larger gray matter. After the second time at the scanner, they stopped practicing, and those same areas in yellow got less gray matter. This allows us to understand that the gray matter behaves in a way like little muscles. The more the part of the brain that we use more get more connection and more gray matter, and the parts of the brain that we use less get less gray matter. It's also important to know that when we age, when we become older, our gray matter diminishes slowly. And this gray matter also diminishes very much with mental diseases, like for example Alzheimer's disease. If you compare a healthy brain with a brain with mild Alzheimer's or severe Alzheimer's disease, the differences in gray matter is enormous. I explained this just to mention that we did a study in which we had 23 meditators with more than 5 years of daily practice of meditation, and we compare with a similar equivalent group, same age, same education, same everything, both groups with healthy volunteers. And what we saw is that there were 5 areas in different parts of the brain related with attention and related with the control of emotion, in which the meditator had larger gray matter volume. But the main result was that the group of meditators, on average, had around 7% larger gray matter volume compared with non-meditators. In this figure, we have the horizontal axis, we have the age, years, from 20 to 65, and on the vertical axis, we have the percentage of gray matter. So when we are around 20 years, we have around 47% of gray matter, almost half of the brain volume is gray matter. But when we are around 65, this 47% decrease to around 40, a little bit less than 44 for the volunteers, meditators that are depicted. Each red dot is a meditator, and this is the adjustment line. And every blue dot is a non-meditator, and this is the adjustment line. So we see that not only meditators have larger gray matter volume, but also the gray matter diminishes slowly. That means that meditators reaching this state of mental silence keep the brain younger. We published this study on this journal PLOS ONE with its title Increased Gray Matter Associated with Long-Term SAHAJAYOGA Meditation. And this research was very much appreciated by the scientific community. It was one of the most read and downloaded articles that year. And this difference of 7% in the whole brain of gray matter, although 7% looks small, but it's the biggest difference. It's the largest gray matter difference published in a scientific journal. So we did a revision and we were comparing area to area in both groups, and we saw that very important areas like the frontal lobes behind our forehead that define these areas, define very much of our personality. The meditator has larger gray matter volume, and also in this red area that is related with emotion, that is the right temporal lobe. In all areas, meditator had larger gray matter, but it was statistically significant in these areas depicted with colors. This was published in the same journal in 2020. And let's move to the third topic of research, functional connectivity in mental silence. Functional connectivity, as I already said, is how two different areas are in functional connectivity when they cooperate to enhance complex functions. What we saw is that those meditators who could stay longer time in mental silence inside the scanner had larger gray matter volume on this area, depicted here in yellow, the anterior cingulate, that is a couple 2 or 3 centimeters behind the center of our forehead. Depicted here is the more time in mental silence, and here is the larger gray matter volume on that yellow area. And we saw that this area was cooperating with these areas here in red. That was again the insula for the interoception, and the putamen. The putamen is also the perception of joy, of harmony. And there was cooperation between this yellow and these 2 red in both hemispheres, and there was a lack of cooperation with this area that is the thalamus. The thalamus is an area that perceive all the senses, all coming from touching, from hearing, from watching, pass through the thalamus. So this lack of functional connectivity, we perceive it like when we are in meditation, we are concentrated inside, and we somehow stop the communication, the perception of the exterior world. This research was published in this journal, Neuroscience, in 2018. We have many other researches, but this is the main and most successful of our research. So let me conclude this short presentation about mental silence, saying that, as we already have seen, having your attention in the here and now in mental silence is correlated with the integration of your body and your mind, which is very good for your health. Frequently achieving this mental silence is not only good for our health, but also rejuvenates our brains, make our brains younger. Mental silence allows us to get rid of the wandering mind, the mind that goes there and is not focused in the present moment. And mental silence is probably the best way to perceive and interact with our world around us and inside us. So this is a very short presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. I am available always here. This is my email address. And I invite you to practice this meditation that is free all over the world, and to perceive this wonderful state of mental silence.